Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tom's Gadget Garage. Today I'm out here with the VMAX VX2 Extreme GT to see if this scooter has what it takes to make it up to all three lookout points on Phoenix's South Mountain. Now I am going to be starting this ride off in eco mode with the top speed set to 20 miles an hour. But this scooter also has a sport mode which has the same speed but with more torque. And of course we can always unlock things in beast mode to take us to a top speed of 25 miles an hour. But we'll hold off on that for today's ride. Now in terms of power on board, this is a 48 volt scooter with a 500 nominal watt motor, which, get this, can crank out 1,600 peak watts of power, which is the same power output as the VMAX VX4. And given this is a 46-pound scooter, that is an incredible power to weight ratio. So today's video is yet another video that I've created in the VMAX VX2 Extreme GT series. I've also done our feature overview, first impressions ride, extreme hill climb test, our range test. So if you're interested in seeing those, I will include links to those in the description below. Something to call out about this scooter is that it does not have a suspension. It is designed to be small, lightweight, and compact, and suspension happened to be one of those sacrifices. It does have 10-inch by 2.7-inch tubeless pneumatic tires, which do a decent job of absorbing some of the smaller things in the road, but a scooter like this is really going to be designed for riding around on very well-paved surfaces. So by no stretch of the imagination would you want to ride this off-road or on particularly rough road conditions. Something that I find really cool about VMAX scooters is, most of their lineup is offered in multiple battery variants. So they've got the LT version of this, the ST, and the GT, which we're riding today. The GT's got 16.5 amp hour battery. And so that is relatively big compared to a lot of commuter scooters. Usually a lot of commuters will see between 13 and 15. So we'll see if we're able to make it up to the top today. I don't have any concerns about power given that it's got 1,600 watts of output. And, VMAX scooters are known for their low-end torque, so I'm not concerned about that. I'm more focused on how we're going to make it up in terms of, battery capacity. Not all of the commuter scooters, especially single-motor commuter scooters that I've tested, have made it up to all three lookout points. So that'll be a little bit of a test for us today. And hopefully we can do it without overheating. It's getting a lot warmer here in the Phoenix metro area. I do these rides, of course, in the morning. It's supposed to be like 105, 106 degrees Fahrenheit today, so definitely toasty. But this is going to be a very grueling hill climb for us today. It's almost, not quite, but almost continuous incline. And so it is definitely a stress test for these scooters. And so right now, coming up this moderate incline, we're pulling 1,047 watts of power. And we'll see if we're able to hit that 1,600. Now the steepest part of this incline is going to come on our way to the third lookout point, Gila Valley Lookout. And the grades get above 10% in some of these sections, and so that'll be where we really test things out. By the time we get to some of the steeper stuff today, we're basically going to have run down the battery quite dramatically. So anyways, we'll see how we do. Once we get to the top today, we'll have ample opportunity to test out the brakes, so stay tuned for that. It's not just about how well it makes it up, but can we make it down in one piece and in a controlled fashion. This scooter does have a front drum brake as well as rear electronic braking. And what's pretty neat about this scooter is that it does have a dedicated regenerative brake lever, which is on the right-hand side here. And so if you just want to use regen, you can do it, and it's a progressive regen lever, so it's not all or nothing. The harder you pull on that right brake lever, the more electronic braking you're going to get out of the scooter. Something else to call out is that the left brake lever controls the front drum as well as the rear regenerative brake. And so if you want to use both wheels to apply braking power, you can also just pull on that left lever. Now keep in mind, folks, we're cruising around in eco mode right now. GPS is showing us going at about 17 miles an hour. And so we still have a sport mode at our disposal. So if we want to use that to come up the mountain, we can absolutely do it. And then we also have beast mode. So beast mode is enabled by 5 rapid clicks of the power button, and that unlocks additional speed, torque, and acceleration for us. So if we need that, we have that at our disposal. But you know, for these kind of rides, single motor commuter scooters, I usually cap everything at 20 miles an hour. That way we don't run into, you know, kind of issues with, you know, potential overheating or running out of battery capacity on the way up the mountain. So the first lookout point that we're going to be going to is Dobbins Lookout. I think that's about 5.8 miles up the mountain. And then after Dobbins Lookout, we'll have Buena Vista Lookout, which is just above 7 miles. And then, of course, we'll have Gila Valley Lookout at the top, which is about 9.5 miles from our starting point. Something that I really enjoy about Eco Mode on this scooter is that it's got the same top speed as a Sport Mode, just with less, you know, acceleration and torque. So it's more battery friendly. All right, so we're heading into a downhill section. I'll release the throttle, we'll use gravity. We're definitely going above and beyond the 20 mile an hour top speed. Let's see, 21, 22. Here's that regen lever here on the right that helps slow us down, put some power back into this battery. Quick little update, we just crossed the 5 mile mark. We've been riding for about 17 minutes at this point, so we are making good progress. The road going up here, you know, you got these, I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but there's some pretty sizable cracks going along the road. You can definitely feel them on this scooter because it doesn't have a suspension, but they're a little bit dampened because we do have that, these 10-inch tubeless pneumatic tires, so you get a little bit of a cushion. Here we go. Nice little ride up to Dobbins Lookout. I'm gonna go ahead and put us in, let's see, let's do Sport Mode for this section. Oh yeah, you can definitely feel a difference. We are now accelerating up this mountain in Sport Mode. So as you can see, Sport Mode gives you significantly more power. We're going up maintaining 20 miles an hour, whereas before it was, you know, 16, 17 miles an hour. And this is a steeper section here, so pretty impressive. All right, we've officially made it to Dobbins Lookout. I'll go ahead and pull over and give you a quick view of the Phoenix Metro, and then we'll head on up to Buena Vista right after that. There's a quick look at our VMAX VX2 Extreme GT. So far, doing a really good job coming up here. You got downtown Phoenix out there, Pius de Agua Peak, Camelback Mountain. There's Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport there. We've got Tempe, Arizona, straight ahead. That's where I do all my night rides. Always a blast riding out there. Let's hop back on our scooter and continue our journey up to the top of South Mountain. All right, so we are back to the races. Go ahead and take advantage of gravity coming through this downhill section. We'll use our handy regenerative brake lever here. If you're curious what the water resistance rating on this scooter is, they do have it at IPX6, which means it protects from water ingress from high pressure water jets. And so if you do find yourself, you know, unfortunate enough to be riding around in inclement conditions, scooter should be good. Just keep in mind, you know, these scooter companies don't cover water damage, so, you know, tread carefully. But I did take my VMAX VX4 LT out on a rainy day ride. One of the rare days that, you know, we get rain here in Arizona. And it was coming down pretty good, and I was cruising around in that, and I had no issues with the scooter, and that was months ago. And I still ride that on a weekly basis, and so happy to say water had no impact on that scooter, and that thing was like drenched by the time I got done with that ride. All right, folks, we are pulling into Buena Vista Lookout. We're at 7.5 miles on this trip right now. So another little perspective of the valley, pretty similar to the other one. But anyways, we've got exactly 2 miles to our next lookout point, and that's gonna be Gila Valley, and that's gonna be a little bit more intense of a hill climb than what we've gone over so far. So, as you can see, straight ahead we got quite the windy road ahead of us. This is where our climbs are gonna be a little more intense. You know, like I said, It's 10 to 12% grades. I think the very steepest section is 12% grade. All right, I call this the ridge. Nice little windy section. This is one of the steepest sections here. We're in sport mode. 19 miles an hour, 18 miles an hour, 16, 15. So we slowed down to 15, we're up and over. Now we've got a little bit of a downhill section. And then it'll be a climb from this point on out. We've got the antennas on the top of South Mountain straight ahead of us. You can see those from the entire Phoenix Metro on a nice clear day. They also had like a UFO incident, I think, back in the 90s. They call it Phoenix Lights. I think some of those lights passed over these antennas here, you know? But anyways, nobody knew what it was. Then they came out the next day and they're like, oh, it's got to be flares. The flares are flying in formation across the state of Arizona. Anyways, who knows what's out there? What I'm noticing today is there are very few people here. The parking lot was pretty much empty. So if there are aliens, hopefully I don't get abducted here. All right, here we go. Enough with the aliens. We're going through nice deep section here. Throttle's all the way in. Way ahead you can see kind of the guardrails for the windy road. That's what we're gonna go up right now. We're in sport mode. I've got this throttle mashed all the way in. If we need it, we can always go into boost mode, but I don't think, or beast mode, but I don't think we're gonna need that today. Maintaining about 19, 18 miles an hour. We're slowing down, coming through this turn. This is where my 9-bot Max G2, after all their firmware updates, would stop. You know, that scooter used to be able to make it all the way to the top when they first released it, but I cannot make it all the way to the top without having to push it for about 150 feet or so. But this VMAX VX2 Extreme GT, powering right through. Throttle's all the way in. Here we go, steep section, slowing down to 16, and we are up and over. Another view of the valley straight ahead and to the right. All right, now we've got more people. They were all hanging out at the top. Alien abduction fears have since been wiped out. All right, South Mountain Preserve, Gila Valley Lookout, we made it. We are there, folks. VMAX VX2 Extreme GT 46-pound single motor scooter. Made it up with flying colors. I'm gonna go ahead and park this beast over here. See what this view is all about. Now, if you're curious what the voltage on this scooter is, we're at 48.7, screen showing 63%. My battery chart is showing, yeah, right around 60%, so that's pretty accurate. So we actually did a really good job coming up this mountain with regards to battery. Let's take a look at the view out here. There's those antennas I was talking about. We're pretty much, you know, more or less on their level. And out there, you can see the road that we just climbed, snaking on through. There's some folks making their way up right now. But yeah, awesome place to come up and ride a bike or a scooter. But anyways, there's our VMAX VX2. Did a really good job coming up the mountain. No concerns, no errors, no overheating, nothing. One of the cool things about this scooter is they're coming out with a new version later this summer. It's called the VMAX VX2 Gear and Hub, and I'll tell you all about that on the way down the mountain. So it is now time to head back down, and this is where we're going to have ample opportunity to test out the brakes. We've got our regenerative brake lever here on the right. We'll use that. We've also got our left brake lever here, which is going to be our front drum and rear electronic brake. So should be more than sufficient for us, but we'll see how it all turns out. So far, more than enough stopping power. Coming into this, handles these turns really well. Oh, you gotta watch out. This thing picks up speed quickly. 25 miles an hour. quick little update. We just crossed the 10-mile mark and we've been riding around for 44 minutes at this point. At the end of the ride, we'll see how our battery is doing, see how much juice is left in the tank. All right, we're coming up the ridge, doing about 18 miles an hour. Here's the steepest section here, and still 18 miles an hour. It's a little bit steeper going the other direction. One thing that I'm noticing about this scooter is that when you've got the throttle all the way in and you start creeping up above the top speed, which right now is set to about 20 miles an hour, it automatically gently applies regenerative braking. That way you can more or less maintain your speed. However, when you release the throttle, it'll actually freewheel down the mountain. You know, and so if I just let this thing go on the steepest sections, we'd probably go on like 35, 40 miles an hour. There's some bumps here in the road. Like I said, no suspension. You can definitely feel them, but they are a little bit muted because the tires do help somewhat. But it's nothing like a scooter with a full suspension. Hey. Now, I mentioned it at the top of the mountain, but if you haven't heard, VMAX has announced a refresh to some of their scooters coming this summer. And a couple of those scooters are a refresh to this very VX2 that I'm cruising around on right now. The two scooters that they announced as part of the refresh of this are the VX2 Gear and the VX2 Hub. The VX2 Gear is designed for kind of heavier riders or people who live in a place with especially steep hills. It's got a geared rear hub motor with a planetary gear system. It doesn't have as much power as this scooter that we're riding. I think it's like 13 or 1400 watts of power. I can't recall. But that can climb up to 38%, or I should say, yeah, 38% inclines, which is absolutely insane. You know, you're going to be able to basically climb any mountain, any grade that you come across with that. But they've also got the VX4 Hub, and that particular scooter, you know, could also climb steep inclines, and it's got a power boost. So this here that we're riding on today, the VMAX VX2 Extreme GT, has 1600 watts of peak power. The VX2 Hub has 1900 watts of peak power, which should give you even better hill climbability. And the beautiful thing is that that scooter now has suspension, so they're adding suspension to the VX2. So it's got hydraulic suspension up front and then elastomeric suspension in the rear. So that should be really nice, very reminiscent of the setup that's on the VMAX VX4, which is one of the best performing commuter scooters I've tested on this channel. And so it's great to see some of that trickling down into their smaller models. All right, coming through these mountain curves here. And like I said, our throttle's all the way in, but it's restricting our speed. If I release the throttle, then we freewheel and we pick up speed really quickly. Got our regenerative brake lever here. We'll use more of that. Now the regen brake isn't going to be as strong as the drum and regen combo that you get with the left lever, but it's more than enough to help you control your speed coming down the mountain. .23 miles an hour, gravity doing the work. Always got to be careful coming into these turns. Almost 25 miles an hour. Still no throttle. This is fun. This is one of my favorite parts, coming down the mountain. But as you can see, you know, this is a small 46-pound scooter, very stable at speed, able to take us up an entire mountain. Little test of our brakes. Always want to watch out for snakes. It's warming up. This is the time of year where we get rattlesnakes coming out. Anyways, that is South Mountain. Those are the antennas at the top that we were just on their level. And we did it all with this VMAX VX2 Extreme GT. Small form factor, portable scooter. No problem at all. Right when we get back to our starting point, I'll pull all the GPS data and give you an idea of what we were able to accomplish today. But if you do want to pick up one of these scooters, I will include an affiliate link in the description below, as well as any available coupon codes. And if you do pick up one of these scooters or any VMAX scooter that I've tested on this channel, using that link, it absolutely helps support the work that I do here and keeps the wheels moving on future reviews. Little speed bump. Yeah, definitely a lot more rough than a scooter with a suspension. We are almost back to our starting point. The scooter does have turn signals, by the way. They got really nice bright turn signals in the back. Sometimes scooter companies put like, you know, pretty dim looking things which are really only good, you know, in low light conditions. But these ones here you can definitely see both during the day and at night. All right, folks, so there you have it. That was our ride up South Mountain on the VMAX VX2 Extreme GT. On today's ride, we went 17.09 miles. We had an average moving speed of 18.3 miles an hour. We had a top speed of 26.7 miles an hour. 1,946 feet in elevation gain, and we were riding around for an hour and 6 minutes today. Now, if you're curious how much battery we have remaining, we're currently sitting at 48 volts. Screen shows 55%, and 48 volts is right around there, 54, 55%. So tons of battery to be had on this scooter. So as you can see, this is a very versatile and capable scooter, and it just so happens to come in a nice lightweight and compact form factor, which I absolutely love. Will be really exciting to see how their new lineup, you know, the VX2 hub and gear perform compared to this, especially with the full suspension that they're rolling these things out with. But anyways, let me know if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns. Happy to address those in the comments section below. And as always, thank you so much for tuning into Tom's Gadget Garage. We'll see you next time.